Oh, hey, speaking of getting dumber by the minute and,
Heyo.
and education here, the Florida Board of Education, the FBOE, teachers and administrators have driven a stake into the heart of our republic. And this is the news report I got here. The latest Florida Next Generation Sunshine State Standards, can you say that 10 times fast, approved by the FBOE, that's that Florida Board of Education, begins teaching American history in grades 9 through 12. Now, let's stop it right there. We're going to teach American history 9 through 12. That's high school. Excellent, great. Does that mean I'm going to get an American history course every year? So I'm going to get 4 years of American history? I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm thinking that's a good thing. This is great. I need American history. I want American history so that my kids and other, the other kids can learn about our heritage, the good and the bad, the honest truth of what it is, but they can learn about our government as well and how it's all structured. But, and you knew there was a but coming, they're only going to teach it after construction, after Reconstruction. So, the whole founding period, there'll be no George Washington, there'll be no Jefferson or Madison, no Mason. We will see none of the Adamses. Da-da-da-da-da. So we'll get none of that stuff, anything, until we get after the Civil War. The whole bank wars with Jackson, the War of 1812, all that stuff will not be taught. You will
No
not see.
Cherokee Trail of Tears, no Dred Scott decision, no
Yes,
Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad.
right. None of it. They will not be taught any of that stuff. Apparently,
So history starts with after Reconstruction. You're going to learn all about the robber barons, right? You're going to learn about the robber barons, and then you're going to learn about the Upton Sinclair's jungle, because that was a distinct lesson in American history I remember from high school, learning about the evil companies, the canning companies, and blah, and
something
muckrakers.
something tells me they're not going to get that. I think this is kind of, and you have to ask yourself why are you going to ignore this, and why are you going to just say, you know what, the founding of this country and the whole republic and all that, we just get rid of, we'll pretend that didn't happen. We won't talk about that. We'll start here with Reconstruction. We'll start with, are they going to start with Lincoln, or are they going to go to Johnson, or at what point is it Grant? Where are they going to start at? What's the date?
Page one.
Page one. Abraham Lincoln was a great
shot.
man.
Lincoln is shot.
Yeah,
Oh my.
yeah, and
Would you like to know more?
yeah, they're leaving out just a bunch of our history, and why? The question comes to me is why? Why would you want to do something like this? And I don't understand it. And it's in the Florida statutes that this is to be taught, right? And so they're saying, okay, yeah, we can teach it, yeah, but the curriculum, the details of the curriculum, and now the curriculum, if I'm not mistaken, it says you have to teach the U.S. Constitution. So how do you teach the U.S. Constitution without, if you're not even going to start until Reconstruction after the Civil War?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Leave out the 10 amendments like they're not there?
Yeah, right. That's
Absolutely
exactly right.
incredible. So that just kind of wipes me out. You got to be kidding me on that one. And I'm gonna throw this up on the screen here so you guys can see this. But yeah, there it is. I just shake my head, and the people that fought so hard to get this piece of legislation into the Florida statutes, so that our kids can actually learn about the government they have, about freedom, about the Bill of Rights, and about Article 1 and Article 2 and the legislative, executive, the judicial. They can learn about their government, learn about their rights, and learn how to defend it and protect it and appreciate what they have, because it's so unique from everything else in the rest of the world. No one has anything like this. And instead of taking that opportunity, this Board of Education, Florida Board of Education, just decided, no thanks. We'll rip it apart. We'll take out the good stuff, and we'll teach you what we want to teach you. It's a shame, but that's what's happening.
It's pretty amazing, and it doesn't make any sense to me, because you need context and you need the good and the bad. I mean, are they avoiding teaching about the uh, war between the states because they don't want to even breathe a word that maybe the Southerners were correct, that they could have possibly been correct, and that it wasn't all about the institution of slavery? I mean, it's a lot easier to keep a period of our history as a one topic, one issue, single issue thing if they ignore it completely.
Yeah, and I think that's it. When Marshall DeRosa wrote a book, and it was about the Confederate Constitution. It was called Lessons from the Confederate Constitution. And what he found in his analysis of this was that uh, the southern states, their legislators, when they formed their southern state, they wrote their own constitution. They went back to the original constitution and they said, all right, here are the loopholes. Let's change these things as we see that they've been bastardized up to this point in time, and let's close those loopholes. So they kind of went the extra step because they had hindsight. They had 50 years of hindsight to look at it, and
Yep.
they made the adjustments. So their constitution was in better shape than what ours is today. And it's something that we should go back and look at and see what those loopholes are, and then we can understand how they've been manipulated. But it's not something you're going to see. The schools don't want to get anywhere near it. They don't want to talk about it.
No, and it's a fantastic. DeRosa's book is a fantastical historical treatise on topic, because he's actually one of the few people who has looked at, in detail, looked at Supreme Court cases from the Confederate States. And you have to look at court decisions to understand the way that the Constitution was interpreted, both here and in other countries and in the Confederate States. It allows you to really look at both the prevailing thought about what the words meant, and how they applied to the more bedrock principles. And it's really amazing to see that for all of its language within the Confederate Constitution protecting the institution of slavery, it still brought with it the prohibitions on the import of slaves, that existed within the U.S. Constitution. It codified into their law, into their document, the Supreme Court rulings in the United States up to that point, including Dred Scott, and it really was just this is what is the law of the land in the U.S. at this point, and we want to make sure that there is no real debate on this issue. But when you look at the cases, the Supreme Court of the Confederacy was upholding the rights of people who were slaves in things like contract. If somebody made a contract with a slave, they had to honor that contract because that slave was still a human being. And it's pretty amazing, because if you think about that, then that means that they weren't, that in the eyes of the court, they were not treating slaves as being subhuman. They were just a people who were in bondage. And what would that have meant in the long run is something that we'll never know the answer to. Every other most other countries in the world, including England and France, that had institutionalized slavery, got rid of it. They peacefully got rid of it. We're the only country that felt the need to have a war and then to say that was the cause and to say that this was what came out of it. We could have just as easily ended the institution in our country as they had it in England or Britain, but history wants to erase that from our books. They want us to not even consider the possibility that the Civil War was not necessary, was not a cause, was caused by other things than just a single institution, or that wasn't a singular thing that caused it. And they're doing the same thing today. We look at what's going on with the Tea Parties and what's going on with these unions. They're trying to say that we're trying to take away union rights. No, we're not trying to take away union rights. We're not trying to take away union privilege. We're trying to save the state from going bankrupt. There's a huge difference.
Well, they threw race and slavery and bigotry, everything at the South back then, and here we are
Yep.
today. And what do you see thrown against Tea Partiers? You're racists and bigots, and it's like a rehash of all the same things. It's like they have this rule book says, step one, call them this, okay, and step two, call them this, and they just go through the same playbook every time they come across something. When you look at the states, going back to the Confederate when they were looking at leaving, you go back to Andrew Jackson's term, you go back before that, and the states were talking secession. And it wasn't over slavery. It wasn't over anything like that. It was over tariffs. It was over money. That's the big hassle. It was all tariffs. The South didn't like the tariffs that were being placed on them by the government, by the North. And they said, we know that this is unfair. We're not going to stand for it. We're not going to stand for it. To us, this is tyranny. And that's the way that they viewed it, because they were the ones who were getting, slapped around in that whole debate. So, with South Carolina, going back to Jackson's administration, they were right there. They were ready to go. Jackson helped negotiate a piece of legislation that allowed for a compromise on that tariff, that new tariff that had been put in place back then. And they reached a compromise. The South decided to stay, and it just pushed the inevitable back 20 years. Is really what it did. But it gave them at least another 20 years to try and solve their problems, but they couldn't do it. So that to say that the Civil War was all about slavery is completely false. It wasn't about that. It was about a whole bunch of other things. It's like saying that the Revolutionary War was about the Boston Massacre. No, it wasn't. There's it goes back 20 years prior to 1776, and this buildup of events that led to the inevitability. Same thing with the South seceding. It was 20, 30 years of events that led to this. And unfortunately, he who controls today controls the past, right? Well,
right, exactly right.
So history now says the whole thing was about slavery and those mean-spirited Southerners. And it's funny, but those mean-spirited, slave-owning, white suit-wearing, big house, cotton field, Southern aristocrats were all Democrats. Little known fact that they kind of leave out.
Right. Well, it's like the line from Rage Against the Machine. They say, "Who controls the past now controls the future. Mm-hmm. Who controls the present now controls the past."
Yeah. So it's that's exactly it.